Hey, well, let's go and get right off into it, man.
Let's go, bro.
So, keep it thorough Thursdays. It's your boy E Double.
Yeah. What's up, good people? Cedric Lavelle here, and thank you for tuning in to Keep It Thorough Thursdays, where we give it a real behind business, health, money, and self-development. And that was something new I just dropped in there. You like
Right?
that?
Hey, it was beautiful. And on
Beautiful.
this week, we're gonna be focusing on understanding debt.
Yes, sir.
Right? I think this is a very important topic. Most people deal with it. I should have looked up the national debt average. That would have been a nice little gem to drop
Jeez.
right there.
Especially right now.
Yeah.
Right now. This
No, with the state of the economy and everything. Yeah. So let's get right off into it, man. So debt, that's the conversation of the day. We're gonna be talking about debt, and how it's not always necessarily negative. We're not gonna necessarily get off into positive side of debt, but you know what I mean. Debt doesn't always have to be negative. We'll just leave it there. So the big payback, the details about debt. So Sid, what is debt?
Man, so debt, obviously, if you over 18, really under 18, you should know this, but over 18, obviously debt is something that you owe to someone else, right? Whether it's a banking institution, whether it's a friend or a family member, whether it's your mortgage lender, whoever it may be, it's money that you owe, obviously, to someone else, right? But as far as the context of this conversation, we're focusing more on the bad debt, right? Just the debt that can potentially be damaging to you, creating financial stability or creating financial freedom or being able to do certain things without having your finances really restraining you, right? And so like you were saying earlier, debt is something that we all experience, and we all experience it in different ways. But one of the more significant differences as it relates to debt is how people approach debt, right? And the behaviors behind you accumulating debt, right? Which is something that we're going to get into more in detail. But, obviously with debt, it causes significant limitations and it delays the opportunity to build financial stability, like I was just saying, and so when we think about debt and when we think about the things that contribute to it, it can really get to a point where it almost seems in certain instances where it's unachievable to really overcome the hurdles that debt can cause, right? A lot of times you hear people, saying, I'm in debt all the way up to my neck, just different sayings that you may hear and that people may speak about. But a lot of times people can get so far into debt where it's just a significant challenge to try and even overcome it. Or they look at debt and it's like, you know what? I done got myself into this mess. There is no way that I'm going to be able to get myself out of it, right? And so I know I've heard somebody, I can't remember specifically the quote or who said it, but they were talking about just, your relationship with money and how you look at money can make a significant difference on how you go about lessening your debt or reducing your debt, right? It's like, a person who's more positive and upbeat, more optimistic, really looking at the solutions to the problem, opposed to the problem in itself and how it's making them feel. Those people typically have a different relationship with money and how they approach debt, opposed to someone who may look at a number and be like, oh, this number is gigantic and significantly big, so I ain't even gonna deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And so
I feel like a lot of the challenges and like that feeling of uncertainty and that overwhelming, almost kind of like a weight on you comes from the lack of knowledge, right? Like knowing, because like most of us understand the simple concepts, right? Like we know what a credit card is, we know what a mortgage is, what a car loan is, personal loan, student loan, like we know what all those are, but like, do you fully understand when you're borrowing the money what you're agreeing to pay back, right? Like you realize that that, you know, 20,000 for the car that you're borrowing, you know, once you got to factor in, you know, interest rates and all those
interest
type
rates
of
and stuff
things.
like
Like,
that. Yeah.
and I think that's the problem, a lot of the times, right? Because they're not necessarily, people aren't educated or knowledgeable, and they don't pay attention to all those other factors, which then just accelerates the debt. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And puts you in even that much worse. And then it's a cycle, right? Because once you got some debt, and now it negatively affects your credit, so now you get higher interest rate. Now you get, you know, less chances to even obtain
Yeah.
credit,
Yeah.
right? But then the ones
Yeah.
that you do get, they're going to hit you with an even higher
Higher interest rate.
interest rate, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for, right? That's the point. The point of these episodes
Talk about it.
and the podcast is to talk about the issues,
Yeah.
to provide solutions, right? And not always necessarily provide the solution, but to spark the
The mindset, the
creativity or
approach.
mind,
Yeah.
you know, thing inside of you to find the solution, right? Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, so what to know, right?
Yeah.
What's some things to know about that? Like,
What to know? So one, debt impacts in your investing opportunities. You know, and so the saying goes is you can't invest what you don't have, right? And so we hear so much about the opportunities to invest, whether it's in real estate, whether it's in the stock market. You know, there's endless ways that you can invest, but it's a challenge to invest if you don't have the money to invest, right? You know, if you don't have, if you're so restrained by expenses and having to pay other stuff off, you know, it kind of seems like there's a challenge for you to even put money into some sort of investment, right? But again, that goes into what you were saying about a lack of knowledge, because there are, you know, other areas that you may potentially can invest. You just have to get creative and tap into a few different things, right?
yeah,
The next one is debt impacts your credit capabilities. And so when you continue to get in a significant amount of debt, you don't see the better interest rates, right? You don't see the approval of credit card opportunities. You know, and from that standpoint, you know, you can't leverage good debt. Like you can't leverage other opportunities that having a business credit card may afford you because, you know, of circumstances or decisions that you made that are negatively impacting you, right? And then the last thing is just your overall well-being, right? Too much debt can get stressful. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
seriously.
Too much debt can really weigh on you heavily, especially if you don't see a way out, right? And I think that's the most significant part to it. Like if you don't see a way out, or if you don't see any light at the end of the tunnel, that can assure you or give you that assurance that, you know what, hey, I know I'm in this situation right now, but I can definitely look forward to this, and this is what's going to be able to get me out of this situation, right? Because let's be honest, like getting out of debt, it takes time. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you can accelerate that if you know, come into some money early, or if you transition and your business kicks off and it's like, okay, all this debt that I accumulated, I know I got it, but I'm making X amount of dollars from this business where I can pay it
Yeah,
off. Or I'm doing X one. I just got this promotion, so now I can, you know what I'm saying, take care of this, you know, a paycheck at a time type of thing, right? And so again, it really ultimately goes into the approach that you take as it relates to debt, and then most importantly, just recognizing the behaviors that are negatively impacting, you know, the way that you go about spending your money.
no, hey, definitely. So to go back to the point I made a little earlier, the point of these episodes, right, is to provide, you know, insight, kind of to spark, you know, the creativity or your imagination to you know, figure some of these things out. But then we also like to provide facts and, you know, checklists and things of that nature. So getting into a bind, right? Um, Here I'm gonna list 5 different ways you can accumulate debt, which most of us are familiar with. But then we'll go into 3 things to know about debt that I don't think is as common knowledge, right? As the ways to accumulate debt. So, so don't let the conduct get complicated. If I can read today, don't let the conduct get complicated. So, 5 ways you can accumulate debt. So, credit cards. not paying off your statement balance every month, right? So not necessarily the entire balance, because that's also include your current statement dates, but your statement balance every month. If you don't pay that off every month, then you're gonna pay whatever the interest rate or APR is on that card. So not paying those off. Personal loans. So if you take out like a home equity loan, student loans, anything, in any sort of loan that has an interest rate, right? Now, if you take out a no interest loan, then you're not accumulating any debt, right?
Right.
They're not charging you to borrow the money. But anything that has an interest rate associated with it, mortgages, we all know mortgages, that's debt. If you take out a mortgage to pay for your home and whatever interest rate is associated with that, car loans, which we talked about a little early on. Interest rate associated with those. That's a way to accumulate debt. And then taxes. So not paying taxes, there's fees and things associated with that. And then you owe the government, and that's
You
also
don't
a
want
form
them
of debt,
problems.
because then they can start to garnish wages and all types of
Yeah.
things, right? So that's another form of debt. And I think those 5 ways to accumulate debt are pretty common.
Pretty
Like
common.
people
Yeah.
are aware of those, right? So now 3 things that I think aren't as common knowledge, and these things, don't let the unknown go unmanaged, right? So it's very important to know these things and manage them, so then you can help the accumulation of debt, which is very important if you're trying to get rid of your debt, right? If you don't even know how much interest and you're paying on certain things, and then you can't really get to the root of the problem, right? So first things first is interest rates. Now, people are familiar with interest rates, but people aren't necessarily familiar with the different types of interest rates and how they work, right? So you have fixed interest rates, and then you have variable interest rates, right? Where a fixed interest rate, the rate is going to remain the same for the entirety of the loan, right? So if you buy a house and you get well, right now the economy is crazy, so the interest rates are high. So, say 7%. So say you buy a house, you get a fixed interest rate of 7%. That's how much that interest rate is going to be for the entire time that you pay on that loan, which is typically 30 years on the mortgage. Some people do 15. A variable interest rate means the interest rate can change. So typically you might get a more favorable interest rate up front, but then at the end of that initial term, that rate can change to whatever, right? And typically it goes to whatever, market rate is at that time, right? So like right now, for instance, say you would have got a variable interest rate, 5 years ago, or like when COVID first hit, right? A couple of years back, that interest rate would have been low. When I bought my house, the interest rate for house was 2.5%. I got a very low interest rate. So now say it went up now, right, to the current rates. So the interest rate would have went up from 2.5 to 7%, right? That's a huge jump. And that, now your mortgage payment can go up, your car payment can go drastically up. You may not be able to afford it anymore. So variable rates. There are times when people sign up for car loans, mortgages, personal loans, whatever, and don't realize it's a variable rate, and then that happens, right? So interest rates, very important to understand those as they pertain to debt. APR. Now, I did not understand what APR was for a very, very, very long time, and I don't understand the difference between the APR and the interest rate. APR, in simple terms, is your interest rate plus whatever additional fees are tagged on to whatever debt you're whatever loan you're taking on, right? So say for instance, the interest rate is 5%, but then there's some sort of underwriting fee and this fee and that fee and that fee, you know what I mean? And then if you pay them once, that still gets added on, but if you pay them yearly too, right? So in certain situations, you may have to pay a fee to have this certain type of loan, or whatever, right? So the APR basically takes all of those fees with the interest rate, and then it gives you a percentage for the loan, right, that you pay yearly. So very similar to an interest rate, but kind of a more detailed breakdown that includes all of the fees. Very important to know that, right? So like when you're shopping for rates, it's better to actually look for APR, which typically that's what most people advertise, because that's including everything.
Right.
Because you may see a low interest rate, and then it'll, in the fine print, it'll say the APR, and you'll see the APR is higher than what the interest rate is that's being advertised, right? So very important to pay attention to those types of things, right? And I don't think a lot of people really know what an APR is versus the interest rate, and really pay attention to those things. And then lastly, is debt to income ratio. So as we talked about a little earlier on with your credit, your credit capabilities, right? Like in um, typically, if you have, not even typically, if you have a higher debt to income ratio, then you're considered more risky,
Risky,
right?
yeah.
Which means that you're gonna get unfavorable rates, or you just may not get approved
Proved at
for
all.
a loan or credit at all, right? And the way they calculate your debt to income ratio is basically what is your gross income, and then what is the total of all of your debt payments for the month, right? And they subtract those debt payments from your gross income, right? And whatever that percentage breaks down to is your debt to income ratio, right? So you want a lower percentage. You want to have very low debt and more income, because then they know you have money to pay for whatever debts you're acquiring, right? Whatever you're looking to pay for or purchase. And a lot of people I don't think they pay attention to their debt to income ratio, right? And then they get hit with a higher interest rate. They get hit with a higher APR. And what's very important is to realize the effect that have on you, right? And I got a couple examples that I can give. So say for a person buying like a $250,000 house at a 2.5% interest rate, that would be monthly payments of $987. That same person, if they bought a $250,000 house, credit isn't as good, high debt to income ratio, they get a 7% interest rate. That same house is $1,663 a month, right? So it's a lot more.
It's a lot more,
right?
yeah.
That's over $500 more, over $600 more. You know what I mean? Crazy.
Yeah.
So it's very important to pay attention to those things, right? And then I'll give one more example. So, say you buying a car, $20,000 car. Now, granted, this isn't as large of an amount, and it's not over as long of a period, right? A mortgage is typically 30 years. When you buy a car, I think a lot of people go like 60 months, 72 months sometimes. If you got some money or you qualify for a good interest rate, you may go 48 months or something like that. But most people try to spread it out to get the payments lower, right? Mm-hmm. So a $20,000 car over a 5-year loan, 2.5% interest rate, $354. Same car, 7% interest rate, $396. So only $42 more, but still you're paying more money, right? So very important to know those things, pay attention to those things, and then putting a plan together to manage that debt, right? And when you're putting a plan together to manage your debt, very important to knock out the high interest rate debt first, right? Because that high interest rate debt is going to accumulate more debt faster, right? So let's get those knocked out and then work your way down, right?
What they call it, like the snowball effect. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. The snowball effect, that high interest rate, that snowball getting bigger and bigger, real fast. But so what's the impact? Uncontrollable debt can be damaging if not properly addressed. The road to reducing debt first starts with refraining from bad habits. Starts your path towards financial rewards by not continuing things that cause financial restraints, right? So very important to pay attention. Don't let it just get out of control. It's never too late, right? Because just like you can accelerate your debt, you can accelerate your income. To pay off that debt, right? Yeah. So it's never too late. You just got to have a plan. First, you got to be knowledgeable, right? What are you trying to tackle? If you don't even know what you're trying to tackle, it's going to be very hard to put a plan together to tackle it, right? So understand, know what your interest rates are on your loans. So know what the APRs are on your loans. Then put that plan together. Focus on those more higher interest rate loans. Pay those down, and you can work your way out of debt. It's definitely not impossible. So moving on, ideas that can pay off, effective ways to pay your debts. You want to hit them with the first two set?
I can do that. All right. So number one, create a budget. Right. It's important to have a clear understanding of where your money is going and identify areas where you can cut back. And so with episodes that we've done in the past about budgeting, we've always spoke about being aware, right? Knowing where your money is going, knowing where you have money coming in, knowing what you have left over. If you're unaware of where your money is going, when money is coming in, how much certain things cost, when certain things have to be paid off, this is where the issue is going to start to arise, right? This is where you're going to have more bad behaviors as it relates to money, right? Because you're not doing some of the things that are essential to eliminating your debt or reducing your debt. You have to create a budget. You have to know where your money stands from every penny. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to be able to look at a breakdown of your finances, so you can be more aware, right? And once you have an understanding of that, then you'll know how much you can put towards paying off certain credit cards, how much you can put towards paying off certain loans, right? You have more of a strategic plan and structure that you can move forward with. And then from there, that's where you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's where you can start to see a pathway towards financial stability and financial freedom, right? That's how you can regain your confidence in your spending, because it's like, okay, I know I got X, Y, and Z coming in. I know on this day I get this amount of money. I know on this day I get that amount of money. I know this bill comes in at this particular time, and this how much it typically is on average. And so that leaves me X amount of dollars that I can pay off, right? So getting to a habit of creating a budget, whether it's through any type of software, whether it's through Excel, or even if you go through the old school way and get you one of the little notebook spiral thingies, whatever them things called. Now, I don't know if it's a ledger, whatever it is, but you know, you can find those joints at like Staples or something, right? But get into a habit of making your finances visual so you can see it, and that way you know what direction that you need to go.
Hey, gotta know what's coming in and what's going
That's
out.
it. Got to do that. Then the next one is just make extra payments, right? So making extra payments on your debt, even if it's just a few dollars each month, can help you pay off your debt faster. And then that just goes back with the budgeting, right? So if you know how much money you have left over and all of your expenses have been taken care of, and so obviously it's going to take some sacrifices that you're going to have to make if you wanted to pay off your debt faster, right? So that money that you have left over that you typically use for you know, dining out, you know, you may want to start eating in. That way you can have that few extra dollars, or the few extra dollars left over to pay off, you know, a credit card, to pay off whatever your debt is, right? And so, you know, just making smart decisions when it comes to your spending habits and your money will then enable you to make those extra payments, so you don't have to be, you know, restricted for such a significant period of time, and you can start eliminating that debt much quicker, much faster, and then accelerating towards, you know, getting in a better financial position.
Hey, and another thing a lot of people don't know either is by paying extra on the loan, you're actually paying less in interest, right? And I'll explain this very quickly, in not great detail, but basically the way like the interest rates are calculated is you pay this amount of interest on this amount of money for this amount of time, right? And then they break that down almost like, well, not even almost, like daily, right? And then the payment that they give you to pay, that's what that amount is, including those numbers. If you pay over that amount, then the rest of that extra payment is going towards the principal, which then affects that interest rate, right? Because you're paying it faster than what was agreed to. So then now that's recalculated.
Right.
That whole thing is recalculated with that less amount of principal, right? So yeah. So a lot of people don't know that. Paying extra, also, so if you have a higher interest rate and you overpay every month, you're actually paying a lower interest rate. And there's a way to calculate that, but we're not about to do that right here. So next on the list was prioritizing high interest debt. And we just spoke about that. It's definitely a best practice to pay off that high interest debt first, because then overall you're going to end up paying less money, right? So the same $1,000, and keep this in mind, even if that high interest debt is of a lesser amount, right? So say that high interest debt is at a 15% interest rate, but it's only $1,000, but then you owe $5,000 on something with like a 2% interest rate. Still important to pay off that higher interest rate first, because that the amount of debt is accumulating faster on that than it is over here, right? So very good practice and very, very good strategy to pay off the high interest debt first. And then next is to earn extra income. And this is simple, right? The easiest way to get out of debt, first and foremost, the reason you're in debt is because you don't have enough income, right? If you had enough income, you wouldn't be in debt. It's as simple as that.
Income ratio.
So the easiest way to get out of debt is to generate more income, because then you can pay off that debt and then, you know, not be in debt anymore, have a surplus, right? So, and we talk about all the time, you know, start a business, right? Pick up some extra hours, you know, put in some, you know what I mean? Put in some overtime. Really recommend starting your own business. Go the entrepreneur route, right? Generate some passive income while you're working your regular job. Get to the point where that passive income, you know, exceeds your regular job so you can quit and do your thing. Get your freedom and your flexibility back. That's what we recommend. That's what we practice. That's what we working towards. That's what we doing. So that's what we greatly recommend. But yeah, earning extra income. And it's really just that simple. You're in debt because you don't have enough income. Generate more, get out of debt. So
in
you want to hit us with the final thoughts?
Cases, you know, sometimes people may have enough income but still be in debt because it's got bad habits.
That's still that's still not enough income, right? Because so let's peep. So let's say that though, right? Because living outside your means doesn't just apply to broke people.
Yeah.
That applies to rich people too.
Yeah.
Don't be a thousandaire trying to live like 100,000 there. Don't be a millionaire trying to live like a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? Like that applies to everybody. So just because you got money, don't mean you got enough income. Depending on how you live in your life, you need more money to justify which again puts you in debt. That puts you in debt, right? If you're a millionaire, there's millionaires living check to check.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. The amount of money don't matter when you got bad habits. When you have bad financial habits, you know what I mean. It don't matter how much money you can be.
That's the root of it. There. Just your habit, your spending habit.
If you don't know how to manage $1,000, what make you think you're gonna be able to manage $100,000?
That's just gonna make it even bigger.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You're gonna magnify those bad decisions. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah. But what's the final thought, Sid?
So paying off debt can be tiring, right? It can feel like a lifetime to complete at certain moments. It's common to think debt will permanently control your finances and restrict spending on items that you want and that you need. To alleviate the frustrations of debt, developing a strategic plan can turn your financial headache into a future of possibilities, right? So take the time to identify strategies that can work in your favor so you can achieve the freedom that you deserve, right? And so, like we've been talking about this whole time, create a strategic plan, right? And with that plan, that can help alleviate some of the frustrations and some of the things that you're experiencing when it comes to debt. If you can identify the behaviors, right, that are affecting you from getting out of debt and change those things, you can get yourself in a better position. So, right. So when we were talking about, you know, not allowing the conduct to get complicated, right? It's simple behaviors. You know what I'm saying? If you can recognize the behaviors and the patterns that you have as it relates to spending
and own them,
you know,
recognize
them. Recognize them, own them. Say, you know what? I'm messing up in this area. I can certainly do better. Let me create a strategic plan where I can eliminate this bad behavior and replace it with something good that's going to help me in the long run, right? And so not letting the unknown go unmanaged, right? And so if you don't know something, or if you haven't confronted it, or you're just unaware, obviously you're not going to make any changes because you don't know it's an issue. You know what I'm saying? And to recognize those issues, that comes through just doing your due diligence of research.
Well, just being a learner. You know what I mean? Being open to new information and trying to find solutions to problems, right? Because that is a problem. That's a problem, right? Well, bad debt, which we talked about, there's good debt too. But, but bad debt, that's a problem, right? So like if you don't like it, what's the solution? And understanding it is the very first thing that you should try to do, right? And that's how you manage the unknowns, right? And you don't let them go unmanaged, right? By figuring things out, you know, by you know, putting the plan together, right?
Putting the plan together. That's it, man. So put the plan together, you know, run the play, and man, just have a better mindset. You know, have a more thorough approach, you know, to what you're doing, and then get out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't feel like it's the best thing to, you know, allow it to overwhelm you. Yeah, it can be a lot or it can be a significant amount, but really just having that optimism that you can figure out the solution. You know what I'm saying? Just like how we talked about last week, like you never find a solution when you just stressing about things all the time. It's impossible. Like you're gonna think that everything that happens
you look at yourself as the victim at that point.
right,
So you're not even necessarily looking for a solution. You just reinforcing the fact that, you know, you're the victim.
right.
Like, why is this happening to me? Like, oh, I can't believe, you know, you got to
It
get out of that
it
victim
changes nothing,
mentality
right? It's either
and
it's
save yourself. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
It's either you're gonna do something or you're not. You know what I'm saying? It's one of two options. You're gonna, you know, put your foot down and say, you know what, I'm about to get out of this situation no matter what it takes. If I gotta earn income, if I gotta figure out a new trait, a new skill set that can bring some passive income in, whatever it is, you know, you do that. You know what I'm saying? And just be consistent with it, because a positive plus another positive is eventually, you know, going to get more positive. Like he always talks about the law of averages, right? Like if you continue to do good things and you continue to sow fruitful seeds, eventually those seeds are going to start producing a favorable return, right? Eventually those seeds are going to start producing things that are good for you, and then you can start, you know, seeing things being able to change for you.
Hey, no, absolutely. Hey, so with all that being said, man, we greatly appreciate everybody who tuned in to the live, everybody who goes back and watch, everybody who, oh, well, before I say this part, let me make the announcement, right? So we are now officially on YouTube. Keep It Thorough is on YouTube. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. No, but
what's the ad?
go.
What do we go to again?
You said
what's
what?
the ad? Is it just Keep It Thorough?
Let's just keep it thorough. That ad is just how you do names on YouTube.
You know,
but
YouTube
yeah, keep it thorough. Keep it thorough on YouTube. 50 up to, what are we on? 50.
We on 56. I want to say up to 54.
Up to 54 is on there. 54? But we'll be at the point where they're being updated every Oh yeah, it was Sam's birthday. I forgot about that, man. Sam just made 40, man. Happy birthday!
Come on, man. Come on, dog. I'm 35. Man, give me my 5 years, man. I need my 5, man.
No. Sam just celebrated a birthday on Sunday, right?
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah, on Sunday.
It was a beautiful thing, man. It was a beautiful thing. I cried. You know what I'm saying? Hey, my wife did something spectacular. I ain't even gonna lie to you. Shed a couple thug tears.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong. Hey,
you know what I'm saying?
I honestly feel like the older I get, the more in tune with my feelings I get, man. So
that's all right.
You know what I mean? It is,
you know what I'm saying?
But it is. But yeah, so Sid had a B-Day. We on YouTube now. Website coming 2/3/23. Merch will be on there. The hats, I ain't wear my hat today. What else? Yeah, hey, just be on the lookout, man. A lot of great things coming. We very excited. Y'all gonna see a lot of changes happening. Yeah, big things coming.
This year's gonna be big, man. I'm excited about everything that we discussed and seeing it all begin to unfold. You know what I'm saying? I think it's nothing. There's nothing more beautiful than having a vision. You know, putting the work in to see that vision manifest. You know what I'm saying? And enjoy the process. You know what I mean? Like what we've done up to this point is wow. You know what I'm saying? And to me, it's such a short.
It's wild, but like it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's not even like what y'all have seen thus far is not even half of it. You know what I mean? Like, but
for sure.
And even this content is good content, man. We get a lot of lot of very positive feedback, and we very excited. I didn't mean to cut you off. Excited, man.
You good, man?
Yeah,
take that.
Yeah, we super excited, man. There's a lot of very good things. We put a lot of work in. Me and Sid skill set complement each other very well. And y'all gonna see, man. And we bringing a lot of people with us along the way. You know, all the real ones. You know what I'm
all
saying?
the real ones. You know what I'm saying? Y'all might want to get used to that. You know what I'm saying? The real ones.
All the real ones.
You know.
But hey, man, we gonna wrap it up right there, man. And if you don't do nothing else, keep it thorough. We holler at y'all next time. Deuces.
The next time.